Tim Stout looks very, very confident standing up. If I were Andy, I would not want to stay here very long. Tim Stout looks very...
In the real estate market did not help at all. I had to convince somebody, why don't you sell your biggest, most costly possession with a guy who's been hit in the head for 20 years? That is not a selling proposition, and I quickly found that out.
Ladies and gentlemen, your referee has stopped the fight. Winner by TKO, clap your hands, Tim Stout.
I grew up in a small town in East Tennessee, Mountain City, Tennessee. Grew up in a small home. I didn't realize how small the house was until I got into real estate. And I was walking in several houses, and the house is about 900 square feet. It was my mom, my dad, had 3 brothers that lived with us. I had 2 other brothers and 2 sisters. I said it got very tight, but you didn't know any different growing up. You didn't realize how tight it was until I got into real estate to realize that that is a very small house for a big family. At 18, I'd moved out. I had actually quit high school at about 16 to be able to work full-time. I always worked full-time. I was old enough to work. I wanted to work, and I was working full-time at a factory. We actually destroyed film, like the old 35 millimeter film. Go to school from like 8 to 3, and as soon as I was off at work at 3, I had to go to the factory, and I'd work there until almost midnight. And it got to a point that the only reason I was going to school was to see my friends, and then I had the great epiphany that I would just quit school, see my friends, and then go to work. And I immediately went and got my GED. And growing up as a kid, like Bruce Lee was my hero, Chuck Norris was my hero. Those are the guys that I wanted to be. And I had a really good friend, Cliff, and we'd always, like, we were the ones who was playing ninjas, we was playing karate. We were always doing that. My parents scraped around enough to able to get me karate lessons. And I did karate lessons for a while, and was competing at it and doing very well with that. And then the boxing gym moved in my area, and several people had said that I should go to the boxing gym. I was very aggressive with karate, and because I was such a small kid, and being really aggressive is frowned upon in karate tournaments. So a lot of people thought I'd be better off with boxing. So I went into boxing and fell in love with it immediately. Like, I loved being able to train hard, to hit somebody as hard as I could, as many times as I could. And from there, after winning some titles and getting into some tough man tournaments, I started training MMA with Casey Oxendine. And that's where my true love for fighting really took off. And we trained for 4 and 5 hours a day, and that was still working full time before I even turned professional. And once I turned professional, it was training 2 or 3 hours of a morning with strength and conditioning and running, and then working all day, and then going to train 3, 4, 5 hours of a night, working with boxing and jiu-jitsu. I was naturally tougher than most. I was naturally stronger than most. I was naturally faster than most. But I wasn't the fastest, and I wasn't the strongest, and I wasn't the toughest. But I fell in love with fighting because the harder I worked, the better I got. And that's been my philosophy with business and real estate, is you're not going to outwork me. My first fight was in Atlanta, Georgia. So it was home, it was here. We come down to fight a local boy, expected to lose, of course. We were brought in, and we ended up making quick work of him and becoming getting popular down here fast because I was so aggressive, and I fought no matter who it was. I fought hard, I fought aggressively. Then we had some fights in Kentucky. At this time, Tennessee didn't allow fights. They were banned, and so we were coming to Georgia to fight a lot. We'd fight in Kentucky a lot. And I've only fought in Tennessee one time, and that was on one of the first nationally televised fight events that wasn't a pay-per-view. It was on CBS.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, stepping up to the scale from Newnan, Georgia, a veteran of 20 professional MMA bouts, please welcome the hard-hitting Tim Stout.
Stepping into the ring before a fight is a overwhelming sensation of emotions. You don't know how to feel. In the beginning, it was overwhelming because I was not expected to lose. In my first 4 fights were all knockouts, less than like 20 seconds. Like, I'd have like a 6-second knockout, a 9-second. I mean, it's super fast. Anybody that I put my hands on, I was able to put to sleep. And it was nerve-wracking. The better I got, the more that it happened. Once I got into my pro career, the more pressure I had to continue that. And I remember my first loss, I remember calling my dad, and it's like I call him after every fight. You know, most MMA fights are late of a night. And I called him, and I remember on the phone, I was like, "Hey, Dad," and he goes, "It's okay." And I didn't have to tell him that I lost. And he told me something that I tell everybody that I have trained, is like that if we knew you were going to win, there would be no use to show up. And that resonated with me. It's like, if I can't let him down, I can't let anybody down. So that changed the mindset with me. Stepping into a fight after that, I was there, and I had physically trained as hard as I could, and I was going to fight because I wanted to fight and for no other reason. And I really, really enjoyed it after that. The whole time I was fighting professionally, I was working full time. So I was working at this time as a detention center job, and I loved it. I was in like management, and like I was over a lot of things, and I loved that job. I really got to help people. I really love helping the kids and seeing them progress in life, especially the ones who really wanted to. And but because it was so strenuous work, because we had to work long hours, and sometimes it was physical, it was very mentally stressful, emotionally stressful, and so it impacted my training. And I got to a position to where I'd lost a fight that I shouldn't have, and I'd actually scheduled to move to Thailand for 6 months, and I was going to teach at a school for little pay, but free stay, free airfare. And right when it happened, there was some issues that happened with the Thai government that I wasn't able to move. And then I got a call from one of my now friends here saying, "Tim, we're going to open up an LA Boxing in Peachtree City, and we would love for you to come and be the head coach." It was everything I needed to continue my career, and I really struggled with the fact of leaving the kids, leaving that job. Because I take complete ownership of everything I've ever did in my life. And in my mind, if I wasn't there to take care of them, nobody would. Knowing it's not the truth, but in my head, that's where my head went. I remember talking to my dad about it, and my mindset was, I'm gonna talk to my dad. He's gonna tell me not to go, because he loves me, he don't want me to leave, and I won't go. So I told him, I said, "Dad, this is my opportunity." And he looked at me and he goes, "You need to go." And he knew my hesitation. He goes, "You know, me and your mom's always gonna be here." And he goes, "There's always gonna be little mean kids for you to take care of when it's time." And at that time, I knew that it was okay for me to leave. And as I was leaving, because you're worried, you know, I wasn't living at home. You know, I moved out at 18, but a lot of the things that I'd built, I was leaving. Relationships, and I'm a mom and daddy's boy. You know, I love my family. And as I was leaving, Dad's like, "You know, if it doesn't work out, all you can do is come back home." And that was the most comforting feeling ever. It's like, okay, I can swing the bat. We'll see where it goes. Probably about a year and a half in, I got an opportunity to teach at a gym in Noonan. And a guy had approached me, and I talked to the guy who had moved me here from LA Boxing. And I was like, "Hey, you know, this is the opportunity I was given. I would sort of like to explore it, but I would love to stay, but there's a gap that, you know, if we could even come a little bit." And he was like, "Tim, I think you need to explore that route." And I'm like, "Okay." So I come to this route, and I was working at that gym, and within about 6 months, I showed up one morning, and the doors were locked. My wife, Christy, which was my girlfriend at the time, had just moved here. She had closed her business down there to move here. Fighters don't make a lot of money. Trainers don't make a lot of money. And she just sold her business. I showed up to work, and the doors were locked. Nothing. She had $1,000 left in savings, and I was going through my list of my roster of athletes, texting them and telling them that I was going to do classes out of my garage, small classes, until we got up and going. And I end up texting one who owned a building across the street, and he's like, "Tim, why don't you come over and set up shop, and we'll set up something that worked." So I negotiated my first lease, my first commercial lease with him, used Christy's $1,000 that she had in savings, bought some equipment, and we started Moab. And we have been blessed with that business for over a decade. I was being paid to come to Clovis, New Mexico to fight this guy who, in all honesty, on paper, had no business being in the ring with me. I was younger, I was meaner, I was tougher, I was better. You know, everything was going to happen. Fight had happened, and I lost. And I lost to, my body has its physical limitations and something that I can't fix. And so at that time, I remember in the ring, we were in this big rodeo arena. And I remember looking up at my coach to come in, and I said, I'm done. And he goes, I think that's a great idea. You're going to retire on top. And I remember getting out of the cage, telling my wife, I was done. She goes, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to be in sales. And the reason I wanted to be in sales is because I want to get paid for what I do, not what I'm expected to do. All those years at a factory, all those years working at gyms, and customer service and stuff, I got paid the same as Joe did. I made $15 an hour, Joe made $15 an hour. And Joe couldn't help it that it's in my DNA and who I am to want to work harder than everybody. So I wanted to be in sales to get paid for what I did. I didn't know what I wanted to sell. And then it come to me, I wanted to sell real estate. And I've been involved with so many people during their fitness journey, and that's a big part of life, is being in shape, eating healthy. I wanted to be a part of the biggest financial decision they're going to make in their life. I came in and I learned everything I can. I've aligned myself with great mentors and great coaches, David Kesey, and I did nothing but study and learn on how I could do real estate the best and serve my customers at the highest level. I had to study, I had to read, I had to go to classes. I travel across the country several times a year to go to classes and seminars to learn. It's how can I educate, how can I sharpen my sword? How can I give better customer service, better service to my clients and my staff and my agents? And that work ethic has drove me in that direction to succeed. Success is different for me. In fighting, it was to disable my opponent. And when I was just in sales, it was to get my clients the best price, whatever that is, and the smoothest process with the best service. And now it's to make sure that all of my agents are able to provide the absolutely best service for their clients, because at the end of the day, the only opinion that matters is the clients, and that's the opinion that matters to me.
On board to help them find a house is real estate agent and former champion kickboxer, Tim Stout.
I love real estate because it's different competition, but it's still competition. Instead of trying to knock someone unconscious, I'm trying to knock all the deals out I can for my clients and hope to get them the best deal.
The average agent probably sells 8 to 10 deals a year, and that's including your part-time agents. I think I was close to the 70s without an assistant. And then I made some super, very important hires. My biggest asset as a leader was able to understand where I'm weak and hire where I'm weak. And I was able to make some great hires, and hiring my director of operations has really strengthened me, because I'm not an operations guy. I am a management, skills training, customer service guy. So to have someone at a high level with operations, and it helped me grow. And I continually, as the team grew, I was able to figure out where I was weak. And every agent that we have, they've been handpicked. It's like you don't get a free pass on the team. It's like the team votes. And you've got to be able to fit in with the team that we know culturally, that you're going to fit in very good culturally, that you want what's best for the community, because I'm a huge community advocate, and you want what's best for the customer. And then you want what's best for you, but in that order. And then you're brought onto the team and you're grown, and we're able to grow tight together. Well, I love Noonan. That's more than like. I really do love Noonan. I love the people in it. I love the small town. I love the commitment people give each other. Everybody, they team up to help each other when they're down. They support small businesses. They support the police officers and the sheriff's department. It's the community. You come to this community, you're a part of it, and I've never been treated any different. And I love the small business, and I love the support, and that's what's going to keep me here. The future of Tim Stout Associates is going to grow. It's what I want to do is the people who have helped me grow the business and put it in place, I want to be able to allow them to capitalize on the growth and put them in positions to grow their self and to grow teams and to be able to expand the whole name, the whole Tim Stout Associates, and allow them to grow through it.